Okay, so welcome to the Ultra Running Sam podcast. So, little preamble before we go into this interview with AJ. Um, some of you all know who AJ is, one of the founding members of the Green Runners, and also he just recently set a double Paddy Buckley round back in end of May, start of June. So some of you will know who he is. So looking forward to that interview, which is coming next. But firstly, just a word from our sponsors. Uh, I'm not really big into sponsors of the podcast, as you sort of gathered over the time you've been listening to the podcast. But we do have a strong relationship with Ugoku projects who make the trail running caps. There we go. Wearing one now. They are my go-to trail running hat. In the I don't know why I'm making myself laugh. It's probably because I'm not really used to doing adverts, but basically, here's an advert for Goku. Go and buy their caps. There's probably still some discount codes knocking around. If you send me a message, DM me, I'll pass on a discount code, and you can get some money off the caps. Okay. So he should be coming in shortly. So I will pause recording and then we'll be back on in a moment. Okay, yes, we are re-recording. We are recording after my little very quick intro. Right. So official welcome. Welcome to the Ultra Running Sam podcast. AJ, right, tell me how to pronounce your last name. Hanspal.
It's Ajay Hanspal.
Hanspal. Spell or spell? Spell.
Either, to be honest, people seem to pick whichever one.
Yeah. What is the origins of that name, if you don't mind me asking?
It's from my dad's side of the family, who are from India and Kenya.
Ah,
I'm a bit of a eclectic mix of everything.
yeah. So the Kenyan is in you. Is that that's the running coming out?
That's what I tell myself. Yeah.
Awesome. Amazing. So welcome to officially welcome to the Ultra Running Sam podcast. Right. So first question. This is my pre-question to the real first question I'm going to ask.
Mm-hmm.
What hurts more, ultra running or getting a tattoo?
Oh, that's a good question. Oh, they're two very different types of pain. I would say, the double paddy hurt more, but at the moment, I'm very seriously considering it.
Yeah, just to let the listener and viewer know, we were just having a conversation off air about tattoos. So you say you're a third of the way through a back tattoo, are you?
A massive back tattoo. Yeah, I'm a third the way through, and yeah, I've committed too much now. I'm not regretting it, but it's not far off that point. Like, it felt like someone was just drilling into my rib cage for 3 hours today, which is just ideal sort of recovery from a long ultra marathon. Yeah, would recommend. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, the things you do to keep yourself,
Oh yeah,
yeah,
self
alive,
care.
feeling alive. Yeah, I suppose that there's no if you're a third of the way through a massive back tattoo, then you kind of there's no turning back, is there? It's like sort of
No,
being halfway
I've
through,
committed too far now.
like being halfway through a Paddy Buckley.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. You
Amazing.
start questioning, why the fuck are we doing this? Yeah.
Well, they are the questions that we ask ourselves on really long races, aren't they? So the actual first question that I normally ask is the superhero question. So for people that don't know who you are, haven't heard of you, if you because you're an ultra running superhero, all superheroes have a backstory, like an origin story. So what is your origin story? Go back as far as you like, as much detail or as little as you like, to get to where we are now, discussing what we're going to discuss about Paddy Buckley and everything.
Yeah, that's a great question. Where to start? Yeah, I'll give the long story short, because otherwise we'll probably lose most of your subscribers. It will get pretty boring pretty quick. But essentially, Yeah, my name's Ajay Hanspal. I'm 25 years old, and yeah, I only started running probably slightly less than 4 years ago. It was probably in 2020. I left school and I joined the armed forces. I joined the Royal Marines, and I had what's probably the most spectacularly short and underwhelming military career. I spent sort of 3 years in the armed forces, but I was medically discharged. So in 2018, I suffered a traumatic brain injury, sort of whilst on a training exercise, and yeah, I guess it was a bit of a pivotal moment in my life. I sort of had all my eggs in one basket, and that basket was sort of thrown to the side as such. And yeah, I it was it was pretty difficult. Like I had to sort of almost learn how to walk again, amongst sort of many other symptoms. But my my balance was pretty messed up after a brain injury, and I had a lot of sort of vestibular physiotherapy, which is to do with your balance and your coordination. And it wasn't that like I couldn't walk, but I couldn't walk confidently, if that makes sense. Like it was almost like having vertigo or being a bit drunk. And I guess when you're, you know, pretty young, sort of 18, 19 years old, it's pretty, not ideal. It's pretty scary. So I was at the Defence sort of rehab centre, which was in Headley Court at the time. It's now sort of moved up to Stanford Hall in Loughborough. But yeah, part of my rehab for balance was walking on trails to sort of get that proprioception. And yeah, walking eventually just became jogging, and jogging became running. And yeah, that sort of got really out of hand. And now here we are, a few years down the line, going
Yeah.
through a quarter life crisis.
Yeah, so when I was doing a little bit of homework on you just to find out, so just to sort of go back further than my surface knowledge of you with the Green Runners and everything, Paddy
Yeah.
Buckley. I saw the article come up about the armed forces, and I was like, looking at your age, like that was when you were that was when you were you 20, were you, when
Yeah, it
that
would have been,
happened?
sort of
18.
between 18 years old and 20 years old. So,
Yeah,
yeah, just fresh out of school into the
yeah.
big wild world. Yeah. Um,
That's quite for at a young age. I mean, you don't really know who you are, do you? Really, at 18.
no,
So
not at all.
for
Yeah, it
something
was.
like that to happen to
mm,
you.
yeah, it was very. I don't regret anything happening as it did. It was very, very formative time of my life, and yeah, certainly changed my life massively. But yeah, I'm very happy. Sort of things unfolded as they did. I guess. Yeah, I guess there's the famous quote like you can't have an easy life and a good character. So it's a bit corny, but yeah, I think it's true. It was very difficult, but
I've
yeah,
not
it
heard
sort of
that quote before. I've never heard that
oh
quote before. That
yeah.
I'll use that because that describes me completely.
Yeah, I guess a lot of people in our sport probably can relate to it. But yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
it was really formative and it was really difficult. But yeah, I definitely learned a lot, and I guess I started running, and yeah, that sort of led me onto many different things. And yeah, very happy now. And yeah, I do feel at the age of 25, I've certainly
Mm,
lived a lot of life, and hopefully, have a lot of life to live still.
yeah.
Um, but yeah, I
Amazing.
guess that's my superhero backstory.
Well, I think that how did you sort of, just trying to how to phrase this question, with you sort of coming into the sport and everything, did you sort of had any previous sort of experience with running at all before? Is it sort of all new to you, or did you have the inkling that you were good at running?
I must admit, it was mostly new to me, but not entirely so. I did play sports when I was young, sort of especially hockey and rugby, but I was okay. Like I wasn't great. I was definitely a little bit overweight when I was young, young as well. I say I probably, properly got into fitness more than running, probably whilst trying to join the Royal Marines, because the fitness testing is, yeah, it's pretty comprehensive. It's pretty tough. So I had to run to get fit for that. But when you start running, every run is hard, and you just go out and you just smash yourself to bits a few times a week, and you feel like you're making good progress. And I guess you do for the first sort of 3 to 6 months. But that was my only experience of running sort of prior to the brain injury.
Mm. So sort of dealing with that and everything, and sort of as you were sort of learning to walk again, learning to run again and everything, how did you sort of know that this was going to be the outcome, that you were going to you were going to make a full recovery? Or was there questions over that to begin with?
There were definitely questions over that. So it's sort of remarkable how little science really knows about the brain, and also the sort of brain injuries. Essentially, I lost about 40% of the function sort of in my frontal lobe, and I lost a bit of function sort of deeper within the brain. And yeah, essentially, like the neurologist, and they just said, like, it could take 6 months or a year for your brain to sort of rewire around the dead parts, and they call that sort of neuroplasticity, or it could take the rest of your life, and you'll eventually, like, your symptoms will plateau and you'll reach like a new normal, but you won't really know what that normal is until you've sort of been there for sort of 6 months or so. And but I was incredibly fortunate that it probably took 6 months for the sort of immediate symptoms to really settle down, and then probably a further year or so to sort of eventually for things to plateau and for me to sort of accept, like, yeah, a new normal. Like, my personality had changed significantly. Definitely became sort of more introverted. My humor changed. My short-term memory is still just horrific, or at least I use it as an excuse. As an excuse. So yeah, that was difficult. There was always a bit of a question, how recovery was going to be. But yeah, actually, like, I recovered quicker than sort of the mental aspects of things, and running was definitely part of that. And I sort of got into running as well because one was the physiotherapy, but also, yeah, they were forcing me to do a lot of like mindfulness stuff and meditation. And after having a brain injury, I just was so irritable and short-tempered, like it just wasn't working. So I would sneak out and go and go jogging, and that sort of, to me, acted as mindfulness. And I guess I guess for many ultra runners, it is, and yeah, it is to this day still.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, because what's your take on the theory that gets thrown around about ultra runners that we're all running away from something? This is a point of contention in my family, because that's the conclusion that I've come to over the years, that with my very coloured background in life, which I won't bore you with the details. We sometimes drive down the road near us, and then we see a young lad, like he must only be about 8 or 9,
Yeah.
running. And I was like, at first I was like, that's great, absolutely, that's awesome to see him out running. And then my wife's like, it's a bit young to be out on his own, isn't he? And then it turned into concern for him. And then she was like, what's he running away from? Because we saw him 2 or 3 times after that. And she was like, I
Yeah,
think he must have issues.
yeah, it's interesting. I think the drive to run, I think it can come from positive places or negative places. And I think people have been running, well, I guess, for as long as humans have been around. So I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing, but it can certainly, I guess, it's a very common way for people to sort of manifest those sort of, yeah, sort of not confronting things and running away from things. But also, I find it can be really, really helpful and constructive, if you have a healthy relationship with it. And yeah, I guess it depends, what are you running towards, and what are you running from? Like, I guess, yeah, nothing valuable in life is easy to get. And I guess running sort of teaches you a lot of life lessons around, yeah, working hard. It's not easy. So yeah, that's a good question. I haven't really thought about it that much.
Yeah,
And
you're too young to think about it. You've got years to
yeah,
look back on your life.
but it's
And
interesting that, yeah, like, thinking someone's too young. I don't know, because, like, I find, I guess, I don't know. I'm quite young. I'm 25, and I certainly see that the generation below me, there seems to be almost like a crisis in young men, and probably young women as well, but especially young men. And I think there's, a bit of a vacuum of role models, and it seems like, like, I guess young people, especially young boys, like they don't have enough agency and responsibility in life. Like, I don't know, when I was 14 years old, I was babysitting people, but it seems like 14-year-olds nowadays need babysitters.
Mm.
And I think it's like, yeah, it's like the question of like, well, how much freedom do you give a child? And I'd say,
Mm.
as much as possible.
Mm. It's
I,
a tricky one because I've got teenage daughters now, so
yeah.
I'm nearly 45, and I've
Mm.
got a 14-year-old daughter and a 12-year-old daughter. Um, and I often joke with her that she's a snowflake. She laughs about it. We do have a joke about it.
Mm.
But they've had a more of a privileged life than I had when I was
Yeah.
growing up. I grew up on a council estate. I had from as long, as far back as I can remember, I had like part-time jobs doing stuff, like delivering stuff, working on a market. So from probably the age of like 13, something like that, I was like getting up on a Thursday and a Friday and a Saturday at like 5 o'clock in the morning and going biking down into the town centre to go and work on a market. And it's just, yeah, that's sort of mentality. I don't know whether that's sort of, but then the kids, we can't really blame them for it because
No, not at all.
we've given them that life, haven't we? So,
Yeah, I think we've taken a lot of agency and responsibility away from that generation. And I think that's probably been a bad thing. But it's not irreversible. But I guess that's why, yeah, like a lot of teenagers or younger people tend to be obsessed with, yeah, like video games, and I guess that's a bit of a proxy for career or purpose. Like, I think of a lot of young people that they don't they don't really have that purpose in life, and they feel a bit hopeless. I certainly see that with sort of people younger than my age. So I guess, yeah, I guess of them I'd much rather young people are out there running, I guess, than staying indoors and being on iPads and social media. But yeah, it's hard. It's hard being a young person.
yeah,
It's
and I think
a
you
lot. They have
find,
a lot to deal with.
yeah, you do, and you find your way a bit later in life as well, don't you? So you don't, not necessarily whatever you're doing at 14 isn't necessarily what you're going to be doing at 18 or
No,
20.
exactly. And I think this is why I think social media is great in some, yeah, in some parts, but social media, like, it's always there. Like, it's a constant reminder of the past. And I think when you're a young person, I don't think that's helpful. Like, I think you need to experiment and, change yourself and try and find your voice and do different things, and, not be afraid of failing. Whereas I guess with social media and Facebook, like, you have a constant memory bank of everything you've done since you're like 12, 14 years old. And I don't think that's helpful for young people, because they're maybe a bit more apprehensive at trying all these things, and
Mm,
trying to find what they want to do in life, for
yeah.
sort of fear of being criticised. And
It's true. So I often say to my girls, like,
mm,
if I'd had social media, like if I'd had Instagram and Facebook when I was like their age, then I probably wouldn't be able to get a job now because there'd be so many like
so
videos on on the
oh,
internet forever of all the
yeah,
things we've
you and
done.
me both. Good lord.
So yeah, thankfully my Instagram is just all running and a few cat videos
Yeah,
here
me too.
thrown in.
Yeah, keep it safe.
Well, anyway, I feel like we've covered a lot of ground, and I feel like I've had a bit of therapy at the same time. So we'll probably ought to move on to like running, serious running, in the
Actual running.
conversation.
Yeah.
Actual running. Um, so for people that don't know, it was so Friday the 31st, that weekend in May, that you
Yes.
achieved a double Paddy Buckley, and you took the time down from, so the previous record was Nicky Spinks 57 hours for the double, and you knocked it down by over 4 hours, down to 52 hours 51
Yeah,
minutes
about four.
35 seconds. Yeah, so um how, how did you sort of how did you know that that was the thing that you wanted to do? It's only been done, it was only
Oh,
done
that's
once before, wasn't it? So
yeah. That's a good question. I think it all sort of went back to 2022, and I was signed up for the Ultra Trail Snowdonia 100-mile race, um, and I sort of built into it for 6 months. Had some amazing training, and it was like, yeah, it was going to be my first sort of big race. And so we started the race. It was all going well. I was sort of running in, sort of third, fourth place. I was feeling strong. I was confident. Yeah, like that was going to be a bit of a breakthrough race for me, and yeah, it meant a lot. I'd put a lot into it, and then some bad weather rolled in, and the race was sort of cancelled upon us. And I did the 50K the next day, but it felt like I had some unfinished business sort of in Wales. So the next year, which would have been last year, 2023, I signed up for Ultra Trail Snowdonia again, but yeah, I didn't even make the start line. I had a car accident on the way up to Wales that
Wow.
weekend. So I was like, yeah, it was like further frustration of, yeah, like I want to do something in Wales. Like, I spent a lot of time there at this point, done lots of training. I was like beginning to know the mountains well. So I guess the natural extension was then, okay, why don't I look at a Paddy Buckley round, and I can, have some control over the date. And it would, yeah, it felt like I'd sort of known the hills well enough at that point. But yeah, ever since the brain injury, my personality's been a bit more sort of black and white, and I definitely sort of struggle with motivation unless I'm going to be like competitive with something. And I think at this point, Finley Wild had set his Paddy Buckley record, and I knew I could do a quick Paddy Buckley of maybe sort of 18 to 19 hours, but I knew I was going to be nowhere near Finley's time. So I kept being a bit lazy and sort of kicking it down the road. I was sort of umming and erring about it. I set a date. I think it was I set a date last year in August, and then sort of bailed on it. And yeah, just kept being a bit lazy. And then for some reason, I watched the documentary about Nicky Spinks and her double Paddy Buckley round, and it just clicked something in my head, and I was like, yeah, that's it. Like, I think John Kelly puts it really well, how he chooses his races and challenges about, like, it needs to be right on that sort of outer edge of what you think you're possible of doing, because then it sort of scares you and it excites you, and then you're gonna treat it with respect and do the training, be consistent. And for me, yeah, the double Paddy, yeah, was right out there on, yeah, what I thought was possible. Like, I knew, there was a fair chance I could do it, but there was also a fair chance that I might not be able to. So yeah, sort of ticked all the right boxes, and yeah, I think I properly committed to it probably late last year.
Mm. What sort of prep did you do in advance for that? So if you've been sort of planning it with you planning it for quite a while, have you sort of gone up and done every single leg and done double legs and stuff to get used to that kind of terrain that you know so well?
Yeah, I guess I've been sort of indirectly training for it for a few years, but over winter I spent winter in New Zealand, sort of visiting family, and I was down in the Southern Alps, so I got a really good training block in over winter, and I was just going up and down, steep mountains, sort of rough terrain. So that was really helpful, and that was actually building into a race in January. But I got COVID, so I didn't really race. I didn't finish the race anyway. So then I sort of switched, yeah, full attention towards a double Paddy Buckley, and had sort of 6 months of specific training. And yeah, I'm coached by Damien Hall, and I'm a coach myself. And actually, sort of early on, it was a lot of just boring consistency, like a lot of aerobic volume, a lot of quality as well. Short hill reps. Just getting as fit as possible. And then I'd say about 8 weeks out from the attempt, I sort of almost moved up to Snowdonia thanks to a guy called Alistair, who's in the Green Runners. He was able to sort of sort me out a place to stay for a really reasonable price. Otherwise, I just wouldn't be able to afford to stay there for that long. Yeah, and I think for about 5 6 weeks, I basically just lived up in Snowdonia, and yeah, recce'd the whole course in both directions. And that was really helpful. I guess one for navigation and sort of being able to judge your effort level, but also, yeah, just getting it under the legs, like getting your legs used to just the roughness of the terrain underfoot. Um, yeah, and then yeah, it seemed to work out well. And then I had a date in mind of the 31st of May, but I was always going to be flexible with the weather window. If the weather wasn't going to be great, I was going to just move it the week after and take less support. But thankfully, it seemed like, yeah, the universe sort of rewarded me after the bad weather in 2022. Like, all of my recce's and the attempt itself, was pretty good.
Mm. What was the quote? I read your blog. What was the quote from Dan Lawson about the universe? What did he say?
Trust the universe and it delivers.
That's it.
Yeah, yeah. It's a bit wishy washy, but I don't know. Like, because yeah, like some people, like John Kelly, for example, will plan these attempts meticulously and like have multiple spreadsheets and will go into really specific detail. And then, I saw some of Damien's spreadsheet, like I crewed Damien at Tour last year, and yeah, he seems to have a bit more of like a middle ground where there were some spreadsheets and some planning, but a lot of it was just see how it goes and use your initiative on the weekend, and we'll sort it out as it goes. And I think I definitely lent more towards that. Like I did have a spreadsheet. Actually, I had two, but a lot of it was just let's just run and see what happens.
Mm. Yeah. What is it? Everyone has a plan until you get punched in the face.
Yes, and the Paddy Buckley does punch. I think the best. I was trying to describe it to someone else, like the difference between the Paddy Buckley and the Bob Graham. And it seems like the Paddy Buckley is trying to hurt you at times. Like it almost like knows when you're having a low moment, and then it's going to try and lay you on the floor. Yeah, it's nasty in places, but it's a great route. Yeah,
I felt for you the section where you were talking about the gliders and all the rocks and everything, and just
yeah.
bump the way. It's just it's the, you can't pick the same route twice, can you? Through stuff like that, it's just
No,
you
you
plan a
can't.
route and then come back to it on a different day, different weather, and you like, kind of don't really remember this route. I know I've got that classic photo of the rock that sticks out, the really long
Oh
one.
yes, on the
I forget it's
glitters.
called something into I
Yeah.
don't know, but I've got that classic. So I've got a mate who lives up there. Ben Wells he works for Mountain Rescue in Dolgethley. He'll tell
Yeah.
me off for pronouncing that wrong. And so I've
Yeah.
spent a bit of time up round there. And when you were talking about coming down Trifan with it being wet and everything, I was thinking I've only ever been up from the road,
Mm.
and that was bad enough. I can't imagine, I haven't been that way down it, and what that was like.
Yeah, I must admit, as a whole, the weekend was really good weather-wise, but the first leg and a half was atrocious. Like it wasn't cold; it was just really thick clag, decent wind, but also like it was humid and drizzly. So yeah, all the rock up on the glitters just had like a film of moisture on all the rock, and I guess most of the rock is fine, but you get the odd rock which is just like it's got like that moss on it as well, and it's super slippy. So yeah, coming down Triven was interesting. We had it was quite slow, but yeah, we still made it down actually off that leg. I think I was 15 minutes up on schedule. And then yeah, I mean the rest of the round was, especially that first round, was perfect weather-wise, and then it got a little bit warm on the second day, which wasn't ideal.
It sounds like you had who's who of ultra running though with you, didn't you? As like support. Who did you have? 'Cause obviously you had Damo and everything. Who else did you have supporting you on
Oh wow,
the day?
yeah. Who did I have? Well, yeah, it started off with Damien, and then Mark Derbyshire and Sam Skinner joined for leg two, and they carried on for, I think they both did about 40 miles. Over big time. And then on leg three, Tim Broadhurst and Tony, they joined. Leg four, Ben Vergy, Sabrina's partner, he joined. He was fantastic. And then had Sabrina Vergy for the last leg of the first round, and then turned back around on myself, and Damien joined again, and then I had somebody I coached called Joe Jardine. He joined me, and they took me all the way through for 20 odd miles, and then the long leg on the second round. Just loads of people decided just to join in. So Sabrina and Ben came back. Damien continued on. Tony came back, and Barry Evans showed up. So it sort of just felt like a big communal group run, and then got into Capel Keurig, sort of 2 legs remaining, and I sort of knew it was in the bag, but starting to, my feet were just in bits at this moment, so I wasn't moving great. Like I was on like a 48-hour schedule until about halfway through the second round, where my feet just were obliterated, and I, I sort of purposely organised to have sort of Nina Davies and Laura Darby Jones and Michael Corrales on the last two legs, just because, like I guess they were people I trust, to sort of be firm with me in sort of low moments, and I wanted to capitalise on, like, I guess, strong women power. I guess I needed to sort of women up in my life a little bit. I've definitely, you know, been
Yeah,
lazy at
saw
times,
that.
and
Yeah,
yeah,
I
like I've
saw
been
that
lazy
quote.
at times.
The quote that you put in your blog about womaning up. Yeah, it's
Yeah,
been a
and
historic. It's been
Laura
a.
and
I
Nina.
was going to say it's been a historic, couple of years for women's running, hasn't it? With
Yeah.
so I'm not surprised that you wanted that support there. How did they sort of get you through your low moments then?
Um, I think they were firm with me, especially around sort of eating and fueling. They didn't really take no for an answer, but sort of managed to like coerce me into eating. And then, I was really grumpy and sulky, sort of coming down into the Ogwen Valley and then up Triven. And I was convinced we were going the wrong way. But Michael Corrales, who's a bit of a local legend, like he was obviously taking us on exactly the right line and exactly the way I'd came up the day before. Um, but yeah, they kept sort of reframing my mindset and were always positive, always speaking to me and trying to make me laugh. And yeah, it was just like the perfect mixture of like kindness, like really caring, but also, like being firm. And yeah, I was so thankful. Like, it was the way I was glad I sort of deliberately took time to sort of place people where I thought they would be best suited. And yeah, like another example was having, I guess, Sabrina Vergi around the turnaround point. Like, I consider her a friend. We sort of ran most of Lavaredo with each other last year, and we had a horrible time there with altitude sickness. So she knows me, at my lowest. So, but I also am a bit intimidated of her. Like, she's a world class athlete, so I felt like it was good to have her around that turnaround point, because I didn't really want to show like any weakness around her. And same with, I guess, Damien, having him around that turnaround point as well. Um, yeah, it was the right people at the right time.
Mm. Yeah, that definitely helped, didn't it? What was the issue that you had with the tracker and everything to begin with?
So yeah, we had to have two trackers, and essentially we, of course, we essentially just picked the wrong one for the wrong round. So yeah, we're like, why isn't it working? Why isn't it working? And kept tracking the page. Well, Damien kept like checking the page, and it just wasn't on there. And then it turns out we were just on the wrong tracking page. We were on the round. We were on the second second rounds page. But yeah, actually, thankfully, Open Tracking sorted that out.
Oh,
We
that's
just had
good.
to sort of wait for them to get in the office, and yeah, they were
So you
like,
had the right tracker, you just had the wrong page, or was it the other way around?
yeah. I think we picked the wrong tracker.
And they swapped it over.
Yeah, they swapped it over. But yeah, my crew, Will Smith, David Hart, and Damien as well. Yeah, they really shielded me from the stress. They were fantastic. They just
Yeah,
sorted it out, and yeah,
that's
good
what you
crew
need.
helps.
Yeah, that's a good crew. Just so that you can sort of concentrate on the job in hand and get
Yeah,
the running done, and not have to worry about um, all the little things like carrying loads of water and carrying loads of food and stuff. What was your nutrition of choice then? What went down well during the
oh God.
time? What didn't?
Well, so Nikki Ligo was supposed to be my crew, but she wasn't well. But essentially, like in our meetings, I have a stomach of lead, so I could basically eat anything. And we decided like that was something we wanted to, I guess, capitalize on, was strong fueling. So I made sure that my gut was sort of well accustomed to taking on a large amount of calories, and it definitely helps on the uphills. Like, I always felt my uphill pace was good, but yeah, I must admit I spent a lot of money on precision hydration stuff, which is usually really good for me. And I can sort of go, for sort of 10, 12 hours, mostly on sort of gels and bars and chews. But on something this long, like, you really do need savory options. Like, you're just missing so many meals. And yeah, like gels and sugar, it doesn't really like satiate you as much as real food does.
Mm.
But even then, yeah, sort of unexpectedly, sort of 5 hours into this, I just totally went off gels and bars, and that was an issue. Just
Five
because,
hours after five
yeah,
hours.
yeah,
That's
so
quite soon, isn't it? Yeah.
very soon, yeah, I expected to sort of be happy on that for, well, basically just sort of, have the odd gel here and there for the whole round. But yeah, after 5 hours, I never touched a gel again.
Wow.
I had one or two more chocolate bars, but yeah, sort of, I then sort of relied really heavily on liquid calories and chews, sort of in between the crewing points. But yeah, the crewing points, I would make sure to eat a hot meal,
Mm.
and that was where the crew were just fantastic, like giving me, I guess, two options of hot food, and then also making sure I had some like real food to take away onto the hill. So people would carry like pizza slices and pastries, that sort of thing. And yeah, I think for something this long, like you just need to eat real food. Um, and David Hart, bless him, he's someone I've coached previously, and just a really good friend. He, on the long leg of the Paddy Buckley, you can be supported halfway through it in the quarries, but it essentially involves someone hiking in. But he, yeah, on both rounds he hiked in, and I think at one point he brought chips, and they were still warm by the time we got there. So yeah, very very grateful for crew. Like it really wouldn't have been possible without them.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Well, tell me about your relationship with Damo then. How did that start?
Yeah, we've known each other for probably, I guess 3 to 4 years now. I say, I think he started coaching me, I think 2 weeks before my first 100-mile race. And yeah, I reached out to him after reading his book. It didn't put me off that much, and he's not sick of me yet. So yeah, I guess as a coach as well, like, it's hard not to, I guess, form like a fairly close relationship with those you coach, especially over like a long period of time. And I think with coaching, you need to be with a coach for, it's a long term relationship in a sense. I think you only start to really see the benefits of having a coach after 6 months. And yeah, like Damien's coached me for several years now. Um, I've crewed him at the tour. I've helped with his sort of Pennine Way, and yeah, he's got to know me really well. I've got to know him well, and we go on sort of training runs together in the Brecon Beacons. And yeah, I guess he isn't annoyed of me yet. Um, touch wood. I'm going to be chasing him around the Aosta Valley in September, so we'll see how that one goes. But yeah, I mean, he's been the most just incredible mentor and role model, sort of, yeah, in my own running, but yeah, with coaching as well. Like none of this would have been possible without him.
Yeah, it is a close relationship, is it? With I did a bit of
Yeah.
coaching for a bit, and
Mm.
that was one of the things. It's the training is one aspect, but you've got to sort of be there as a person for them, haven't you? You've got to get to know them and how they tick. And I always sort of said, you'll find this, that when you start coaching someone, you sort of have to explain that there's like a period where you're getting to know them and they're getting to know
Yeah.
you. And you can't expect like magical things to happen like instantly. You have to get to know each other like a proper relationship, like a friendship, and then you can sort of push on each other in the right ways and yeah, and get. So do you feel like having Damo as your coach has sort of brought? Do you think you would be doing the things that you're doing now if you'd not had Damo as a coach?
Oh God, no, no. He's been so instrumental in my sort of success with running. Um, yeah, I don't. Yeah, it's hard to know where I'd be without his coaching, but I don't think I'd be doing as well as I am now, or being sort of as happy. And I think I could be self-coached, but I think I'd end up just being burnt out. Like I think I'd end up overtraining and doing a bit too much. You know, it's so hard to take your own advice at times. I say to my athletes, it's running is sort of one third the running, it's one third sleep and one third eating. Like, and that's where Damien's really good at, like looking after his athletes long term. And it's something I've taken into my own coaching is, yeah, sort of putting an athlete's health first, being there for just unconditional support, as you sort of alluded to, and yeah, forming those sort of long term relationships, which are really based on trust and honesty. I definitely value those sort of long term, because yeah, like you want to be invested in your athletes. Like I almost want to see my athletes do well more than I care about my own pursuits. And often with Damien, I feel it's the same. Like he's so invested in his athletes, or almost sort of more so to his own training. And yeah, I guess the weekend of my Paddy Buckley proved that, because yeah, like he ran 5 legs over the course of a weekend and put his own training on halt, just to be there and help me. And he'll do that with any one of his athletes, I suspect.
Yeah, he's a legend. I'll clip this section up and send it to him, and he'll be really pleased with all the praise he's got. No, he is very humble.
But I think, yeah, like I guess it's just an extension of the community. Like people will come out and help you if you help them. Like, we're all there to look after each other. We're all, it's ultra running's hard, and people normally get into it for, I guess, personal reasons. But what I found with the double Paddy was it. Yeah, it was like an individual pursuit on paper, but it really wasn't. Like it felt like a team effort, and I guess the whole thing sort of felt like a group run, but I was sort of the common denominator. And yeah, it was something so lovely about it. And what I found was it was like I never wanted to quit. Like of course there were like lulls and low points and high points, but like quitting never crossed my mind. And that was unexpected, because I've DNF'd in the past. I've had some bad luck, but I've also probably been mentally weak at times. And with this, I think it was like gratitude for everyone who came out and helped me that sort of got me round in the end, and that was quite surprising. I would just have felt like such a dick if I were to have like dropped out, and that was like surprisingly powerful.
I suppose that's the kind of the motivation that you need, isn't it, as well? I suppose if you'd only got like a small crew and they were,
Yeah.
they were tired and they were ready for you to throw the towel in. But if you've got that many people surrounding you that want you to do well, then it's kind of, yeah, it's almost like it's that choice to stop is taken away from you almost, isn't it? It's that
Well,
um,
yes, I like I'd said to Damien that like I'd sort of removed quitting from the table. Like I wasn't allowed to quit myself. We agreed going into it that he was the only person who could pull the plug on the attempt, and I gave him some quite strict criteria, which was like I was willing to sort of be injured and have some short to medium term injuries, but I wasn't willing to have like a long term injury that was like a year of recovery. So that was helpful, like knowing that a lot of it was out of my control, and I just had to just carry on running. And I saw a sports psychologist just to work on, as I mentioned, like I've had DNFs, and I feel some of it was bad luck, but some of it was probably like poor mental performance. And I've certainly sort of been guilty of being lazy in the past, and I was beginning to sort of doubt myself as an athlete. And I remember, sort of the psychologist asked me just one simple question, and it was like, "Who is Ajay Hanspal?" And I was like, "Huh, that's a weird question." And she was like, "Yeah, just like, who are you? Like, just in a few words, like, who are you?" And I was like, "Well, I had to think about it for a minute. I've never really thought about that." And I just said, "I guess, I want to be a great athlete." And she was like, "Good, just do that, like, and just do something to give the universe proof. Like, if you give the universe sort of irrefutable proof of who you are, that's what the double Paddy sort of became to me. Like I needed to sort of do it to, it's hard to word it, but like I needed to prove to myself in the universe like I was who I said I was after years and years of training, but maybe not. I had some great results, but maybe not having that breakthrough. And this sort of seemed to align in the right direction. Seems to be a bit of a pivotal moment for me.
Is that sort of line up with what you sort of said in your blog about it with your granddad and everything?
Yeah, he passed away a few weeks before the attempt, and yeah, like I felt like he never, I guess, with my career in the military being cut short, with a medical discharge, and then yeah, I joined the police afterwards, and I left the police after 2 years because I essentially just wasn't well enough to be in full time work with the brain injury, and then yeah, like DNFing or having a race cancelled on me, yeah, it just felt like I wasn't particularly good at finishing things, and I felt like he never really like saw me finish something in my life. So I felt like yeah, the double Paddy sort of came along at the right time. And actually, I had like a lot of my family up in Snowdonia as well, and it felt yeah, it just yeah, the universe sort of aligned well.
Mm. So it's almost sort of symbolic to
Yeah.
him, to show him that that you'd done it.
Mm.
Yeah, that's a great sentiment, isn't it? It's the why, isn't it? You've got to have, haven't you, for all ultra running when you're doing
Yeah,
something big,
absolutely.
you've got to have the why, haven't you?
I think yeah, I certainly learned that in the last few years because yeah, like it's gone. You know, finishing an ultra marathon, it's hard. You know, and it's hard for a reason because it's quite a valuable experience. But you know, yeah, your why needs to be more important than that temporary discomfort that you're going to be in. And that yeah, that temporary discomfort can be it's quite overwhelming. You know, it's easy to say sat here, but in the moment that discomfort is it sucks. So yeah, you need a why, and I tell my athletes you need to pick something that scares you, but you also need to spend time thinking about your why, and it can be something quite cringy like mine, or yeah, it can be something quite trivial.
Mm. Yeah, but you always have to have that why. Yeah, definitely. Awesome. Um, what's your sort of relationship with the Green Runners then? So I keep trying to find out. Everybody seems to be a founding member of the Green Runners.
Yes.
How does it work? Can you break it down to me? What the
Yeah, yeah.
actual who does what and sort of explain it
Yeah.
to me.
So there are a lot of founding members. Essentially, yeah, the Green Runners sort of spanned out of a group chat that was sort of Extinction Rebellion, but for runners. And it was all around, I guess, COP26. And it was just a group of runners who were a bit frustrated about the lack of action in our sport around climate change and wanted to do something, but couldn't quite figure out what to do. And we just wanted to sort of make a collective voice. So, yeah, I suggested, why don't we make a club? And yeah, that's what we did. We sort of made an informal club, and I guess yeah, now we're sort of about 2 years down the road, and we have sort of well over 1,000 members in 40 different countries. But yeah, the founding members are just people who were in that group chat and decided to help contribute to making it a reality. But yeah, I guess some people do more than others. I certainly don't do a lot, and that's just because yeah, I think we have such a variety of skill sets in the Green Runners, and I'm 25. I don't have any background in sustainability. I'm just very concerned about climate change and my future, and yeah, I guess I don't have any specialist skills in that area. Whereas people like Nina Davies, David Starley, they do. But I think collectively as a group, there's different skill sets combined, and yeah, we've managed to make something quite authentic and special and effective. And it seems like yeah, the Green Runners is being really effective at sort of being that collective voice representing the planet sort of in our sport. That sounds a bit wishy-washy and cringy, but yeah, like I guess one example would be UTMB and the Dacia sponsorship, and a year later after calling them out, they've demoted Dacia as a headline sponsor. So, what we're doing is working, and
Mm.
I think the Green Runners combined with sort of Pro Trail Running Association and Protect Our Winters, I think it just helps to have these groups that can keep the sport honest isn't the right word, but keep the sport sort of protected from external influences that maybe don't have the best intentions for the sport.
Mm. Yeah, you know, the whole UTMB thing was just like, it was ironic, wasn't it? That you've got such a beautiful place, haven't you? Like
Yeah,
around there, and like the title sponsor is like a diesel, a diesel.
diesel SUV. Yeah, and you still see it in some of their promotional materials. It will be
Mm,
the mountains, and it will cut to a car driving along, and most of it will be in a car, and it's just weird. Like, I feel like UTMB was doing fine before the
mm,
day of sponsorship.
mm,
To be, we've had conversations with UTMB, and we've learned a lot about their structure, and you know to be a sponsor of UTMB, it's a lot of money. UTMB are not struggling, and you know I don't think UTMB are spending the money on the runner experience
mm,
at all, in all honesty, and they're certainly not giving it out as prize money. Someone is making a lot of money, and I think that person is probably Ironman and UTMB. Um, so I do understand the argument that like we need money in the sport, but I would say there was lots of money before high carbon sponsorship. Yeah, I think to be an entry level sponsor of UTMB, I think it is around €1 million or something.
yeah,
It's a lot of money, and they have like 3 or 4 different levels of sponsorship. So I, I they can say one thing, but if you go to a UTMB race, they're not particularly well organized. Like, I'm not saying they're bad races. I've done a few myself, and I coach people to do them, and I encourage people to do them. Like, UTMB is an amazing race, but my own personal experience, I've had better organised races at sort of local ultra marathons in the UK than I have at Lavaredo or TDS. But yeah, that's just my thoughts.
mm. Yeah. It's interesting, isn't it? How it's it, I mean, but they obviously are listening to
Yeah,
people's voices, aren't they? Because they have. I'd imagine that deal was probably worth a lot of money to them over quite a few
yeah,
years, wasn't it?
yeah.
So
I think it was 3 years.
yeah, so the fact that they have sort of demoted them as and took them off being a title sponsor, I suppose you can sort of say, well, maybe they did listen to the people for a change, because that's the sort of the accusation that's been made to them, hasn't it? That they don't listen to people's
Mm.
feelings. But then some stuff is coming through, like the stuff that like She Races,
Yeah,
she's done really well with getting them to change
yeah.
policy
It just
uh,
seems like
deferral.
UTMB are always consistently extremely slow at reacting to this sort of thing, like with
Mm.
pregnancy deferrals,
Mm.
everything else that She Races pushes, equal prize money.
That's come though, hasn't it? They announced that recently, didn't they?
Yeah,
Equal prize money
but
and
then yeah, like you look at other races, and they should have done it 5 years ago.
mm,
Yeah, I just I struggle. I do struggle with UTMB at the moment, especially when there's so many good alternatives out there, like within the UK, but also abroad. Like, you've got the World Trail Majors now.
mm,
You've got the Tour races. You have loads of independent
Golden
races.
Trail. Yeah.
Yeah, you've got races in the UK. It's I think the sport almost will split. I think in the coming years between like the corporate side of things, like the Ironman, UTMB world, and then you'll get sort of more, I think, low key and authentic races. And I don't think either one is better than the other, but I guess for my personality type, like I think I definitely prefer the latter.
Mm. That's the way I've sort of reasoned on it is that it's kind of like Premier League football.
Mm.
Yeah, you've got like you've people that will want to go and see a Premier League
Yeah,
football, and you have a season ticket and are quite happy to pay all that money for the razzmatazz. And then you've got a guy who goes to his local club, literally just like stood on the side of the grass
yeah,
watching them, and they're happy to do that. And it's everyone's got a choice, haven't they? That you can, I think it was Ellie Greenwood. Was I think her point was about the whole
yes,
thing in Whistler. She was like, vote with your
yeah,
dollars,
absolutely.
vote, join, go to local races, support local races when you can, and
Yeah, and I think I've found a lot of joy in the last year doing FKTs. I mean, you don't need to do an FKT. You can just go out and you can just go and run an ultra marathon. Like, you don't need to do it as part of a race. I think it's great to do it as part of a race, but if there is some barriers to entry there with cost, but there's nothing stopping people from just going out and making their own experiences, and sometimes like a really authentic experience. I think, like, I've done an FKT solo unsupported, now I've done one supported, and they've both been like really memorable, probably more so than the races I've done. So I think that's a good thing about the sport is running is simple, so you can sort of do whatever you like with it.
Yeah. So it's there for everyone, isn't it? And everyone can. Well, you say all you need is a pair of trainers, but that's not necessarily true, is it? But
No,
there's the Damo's other little thing he's got go not little thing he's got going. In you part of Inter Ultra? Is that who you would?
I'm not. I have sort of offered free coaching services
Mm,
to Into Ultra, but I'm not part of it. I'm a big fan. I
mm,
like, I think ultra running, we've put up a lot of unnecessary barriers to entry in ultra running, and part of that is just marketing, like having the latest watch or
mm,
fancy carbon fiber running poles, or having specific shoes for specific things. And I think, so in a way, we've sort of lost our way in a little bit. Like, I think I've used the same watch and the same running vest since I started running. um, I try and buy shoes which are like durable and versatile, and I just hope that people, being on Instagram, it's easy to consume a lot of this marketing subconsciously and think that you need to spend loads of money to be a great runner. But you look at Dan Lawson recently on the South Downs Way 100, in used stuff that he brought off eBay, shoes, shorts, vest, and then being crewed on a bike.
mm.
Um,
Yeah, it can be
just
done.
as simple as it gets, and running,
That's
just
it.
being an absolute world class athlete. You're like, it is just running, isn't it? At the end of the day,
Yeah,
like,
so, yeah, he can run in anything, can he? When Damo put the whole Into Ultra thing up, I commented and said how I'd still got from I've still got them now, two Asics running vests, black. They're just like plain black running
yeah,
vests. They're faded. You can hardly see like Asics on them now, but I've had them since 1998. They're
wow,
still use them. But I don't know whether that
well,
sort of shows whether British summertime is so rubbish that I don't always wear a vest through the summer, and that's why they probably only had the equivalent of probably like 4 years worth
maybe,
of
yeah.
running.
Well, this is the thing. Like, I have, like, you just accumulate so much stuff, don't you? And I've got, so many running T-shirts, and all of them are going to outlive me by thousands of years. So,
Mm,
sometimes, we're all guilty of it. Like, we're all runners, we all love kit, and I'm guilty of it. I go online and start window shopping at some fancy kit, but sometimes you just need to appreciate what you already have. Like, I don't need any more pairs of shorts or T-shirts. Like, I have more than enough to last me several lifetimes. And the only thing I really need to buy is shoes occasionally, and socks. I draw the line at socks. I'm like, Dan, um, I will buy new socks. But like, I think as a community, we just need to encourage each other just to just enjoy the running. Like, don't overcomplicate it.
mm,
Same with by Paddy Buckley. Like, it was, there was, as I said, like, some spreadsheets involved, but a lot of it was just go out and run, and we'll
going for
just
it.
see how it goes. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I think that's probably like the theme into of this podcast is just go for it. Yeah, I think. Do you think people, the whole thing with rounds and not that it's the whole FKT thing was sort of like a bit of a lockdown phenomenon. I know everyone's obviously always done rounds are historic, aren't they? And they've been around for a long time. But do you think that there was obviously a big flurry, wasn't there, of FKTs and stuff during lockdown and stuff? Do you think
There
that's going
was,
to just
yeah.
will it carry on bubbling over?
I think so. I think the rounds will always be very popular, especially with Bob Graham. It was almost every other day in summer. It seems like someone
Mm,
is doing a Bob Graham, and rightfully so. But also, like athletes like Jack Kunzel, who has the Bob Graham round, he doesn't really race. He's just out there doing FKTs all around
Adventurous.
the world and
Mm.
just smashing them. And you think, and I like the way he's put it when he's been interviewed of like he finds doing them more rewarding in a sense because like let's take UTMB as a race. I I don't know who won UTMB in 5 years ago, but I know who has the Mont Blanc FKT. So yeah, like course records and course winnings, they come and go almost every year, but there's something special about an FKT where it can last potentially for a really long time. And I think and they're accessible, like anyone can do one or make one. So to me, I think it will definitely be a future of the sport. I'll continue to do them. I find, for me, sometimes I get quite anxious at races and don't really enjoy them that much. Whereas, my experiences with FKTs, I've absolutely loved. So, for me, I think there's a balance to be had.
Yeah, definitely. And Jack Kunzel is legend, famous for running shirtless, isn't he, all the time?
Yeah, yeah. I almost tried to copy him, but my shorts weren't short enough.
Yeah, he's a great guy. He's quite funny. I've interacted with him a bit on social media, and
Yeah, he's brilliant.
he's got a great sense of humor. We got into a bit of trouble with Tom Evans over I don't know if I've talked about this on the podcast before, but probably not. He put up a post like basically sort of
Yeah, I
mocking
saw
Tom
it.
Evans a little bit about him saying he was going to do an FK, the Bob Graham was going to be in his FKT and stuff. And there was a bit of interaction, and I reposted something that he'd put on, and Tom Evans had a right go at me on social media.
Oh, interesting.
So I think
That,
I'm off
yeah,
his Christmas card list, I think.
no. Well, I thought that I don't mean to stir the pot, but I thought the issue was that Tom, or I suspect it was the Adidas marketing team more than Tom, but just put Bob Graham FKT rather than what it should have been was Bob Graham record attempt. Yeah,
Attempt. That was it. Yeah.
I don't think it was anything to do with Tom. I think he's a full-time athlete, isn't he? I think Adidas and Red Bull probably handle a lot of
Yeah.
the comms for him. But
He seemed to take it personally, though.
oh no, yeah, that's it. Yeah, Tom's he's an amazing athlete. Like, he's a world-class
Oh
athlete.
yeah,
But
yeah.
we don't really
Professional.
hear about him that much in the UK, I guess.
It's,
Yeah,
it's
it'd be
like it's
brilliant.
like that it's like that English band that went to America and made it big in America, but
Yeah,
it's kind
it
of
would
like
be.
that scenario.
Yeah, it would be brilliant to like. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. Like, he does live in the UK. I think he lives up in near Loughborough.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, it would be
Not
awesome
far from
to
me.
have him, I guess, more actively involved in the community.
Yeah,
I don't know.
maybe.
Maybe it was a bad day for Tom.
Yeah, I'm sure it was about. I'm sure he was probably getting it from all angles, and I did apologise to him, but yeah, he turned down my offer of a podcast interview.
Oh no, his loss.
Yeah, no. All apologies again, Tom. If you're listening, and I know you won't be listening, but in case, yeah, there was no hard
He
feelings.
might be.
Jack was the same.
Me and Tom come from the same neck of the woods.
Do you?
I live in actually the town I'm living in at the moment. He's still part of the athletic club.
Well, maybe you can heal the bonds between us. Then maybe you can sort
I
of
keep trying to go after his Strava segments around here and not come particularly close.
Yeah, just take one of his Strava segments and name it Sam Sorry or something like that.
Damn it, sorry.
Please forgive Sam.
I
Please
need to
forgive
get quick enough first. They're always just slightly out of reach. Yeah, he's a fast boy.
He is, and I think he's one of the. I know there's obviously lots of professional ultra runners, but Tom, if you are listening, he is like the ultimate professional ultra runner, and he does everything absolutely professional. Bang on.
Yeah, it's amazing what he's managed to do with the sport. Yeah, I mean, I think he's racing. He's won Western States.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
UTMB.
What more do you need than winning Western States, which is happening this weekend?
It is.
I'm jealous. I'm jealous that I can't be there. I've only ever been once to go and play there, but you know, I'll go back eventually. It's
Yeah.
the big show. Awesome. Right. I've kept you long enough. I appreciate you coming on and speaking to us. And
Well, it's been a pleasure.
yeah,
Absolutely.
cheers. It's been good getting to know you, and I'm sure our paths will cross at some
Oh
point
God,
in
yeah.
the future, definitely. And I wish you all the best with your future endeavours,
You
whatever they
too.
are. We didn't ask that question. We never got to that question. If you can just sum it up very quickly, what you got
Oh,
planned?
I've got the Tour de Gion in September.
Oh, amazing.
I might try a shorter FKT in August in America,
Oh,
and yeah,
that's interesting.
yeah, and then next year I've got a double Charlie Ramsey round to go for. So
All the doubles are lining up there.
yeah, yeah. So that'll be next year. Yeah, and then I don't know. I think that's enough for the moment. I would like to do the spine race, but I didn't get in. So that's that, I guess.
Didn't get in. So
But
what, you didn't get in, you were just too late getting on, or
I was in New Zealand at the time, and I messed up the time conversion. I was 2 hours too late, which
yeah.
is
And it
well,
sells out in like
yeah,
15
it was
minutes.
it was
Like
sold out.
Glastonbury.
Yeah, I wasn't even remotely close to getting a place.
Yeah, well, yeah, do you need to do it. Definitely do it. I think everyone needs to do it at some point in their life.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah, it's on the list, the ever expanding list.
Yeah. Awesome. Brilliant.
Oh, it's
Cheers,
been a
mate.
pleasure, man.
Yeah,
Thank you
thanks for
very
coming
much.
on. And I'll be in touch, and I'll see you when I see you. Cheers, mate.
Awesome. Cheers.
Thank
Bye.
you. Cheers, mate. Thanks, everyone. Bye.